we will. Jai Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandan Braj Janaranjana Yashodanandan Braj Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanchari Yamuna Tira Vanchari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Nitai Kora Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. So we will start with the shloka recitation. I will quickly share my screen. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So is there any devotee who can be my chorus?
Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you, Mataji. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.7.44 Sahashayo Dhanurveda
Sarahasyo Dhanurvedah
Astra Sahashayo Dhanurveda
Sarahasyo Dhanurvedah
Savi Sargo Pansayamaha
Savisargopasamya Yamaha
Astra Gramascha Bhavata
Astragramascha Bhavata
Shikshito Yadnugrahat.
Sikshito Yadunugrahat.
Thank you, Mataji. Word by word meaning Sa Rahasya confidential Dhanurveda knowledge in the art of manipulating bows and arrows. Sa Visarga releasing Up Samyamaha controlling Astra weapons, Brahmaha all kinds of Cha and Bhavata by yourself, Shikshita learned yet by whose Anugrahat by the mercy of translation and purport by his divine grace. ऐसे Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. It was by Dronacharya's mercy that you learned the military art of throwing arrows and the confidential art of controlling weapons. Purport. Dhanur Veda or military science was taught by Dronacharya with all its confidential secrets of throwing and controlling by Vedic hymns. Gross military science is dependent on the material weapons, but finer than that is the art of throwing the arrows saturated with Vedic hymns, which act more effectively than gross material weapons like machine guns or atomic bombs. The control is by Vedic mantras or the transcendental science of sound. It is said in Ramayana that Maharaj Dashrath, the father of Lord Sri Ram, used to control arrows by sound only. He could pierce his target with his arrows by only hearing the sound, without seeing the object. So this is a finer military science than that of the gross material military weapons used nowadays. Arjuna was taught all this, and therefore Draupadi wished that Arjuna feel obliged to Acharya Drona for all these benefits. And in the absence of Dronacharya, his son was his representative. That was the opinion of good lady Draupadi. It may be argued why Dronacharya, a rigid Brahmana, should be a teacher in the military science. But the reply is that Brahmana should become a teacher regardless of what his department of knowledge is. A learned Brahmana should become a teacher, a priest, and a recipient of charity. A bona fide Brahmana is authorized to accept such profession. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Sha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Sha हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांता श्री राधा कांता नमस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधरा शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्येश्वरं हरे कृष्णा. So we are continuing with the topic, the son of Drona. Punished. I will just share my screen. We will try to do at least 2 shlokas today, considering we have discussed most of the points which are present in this particular shloka. But yes, Prabhupada's purport is very important. We'll go through that, and we'll see if there are some points which we can take away from today's session. So we in the childhood days we were seeing, in the Ramayana or Mahabharata, which we have seen in the TV, that one person will shoot arrow from this side, and then that arrow will become 2, 4, 10, and then another person will shoot arrow from the other side, and that will become 2, 4, 10, and then they will clash, and then there is some lightning, and then one side of the arrows will disappear where the other side remains. So many times we try to imitate, I've seen children using the bow and arrow, but when we throw the arrow it is hardly making any impact. So one time somebody was asking me in the office that you say that in the olden days people were very expert, and we had the best of the best science, but see, nowadays we have got the machine gun, we have got this atomic bomb there, which is very powerful. We have got this nuclear weapons. So where in the olden days people were using only those bow and arrow, which is hardly, which hardly anybody can be killed. So that person was saying this because he was considering throwing arrow with his strength, and then he was imagining, how it can be very dangerous. It is just a, just a weapon flying, and you have all the time to escape from that. But it was not the thing. And that is what, if you see in this particular paragraph, Prabhupada is mentioning Dhanur Vidya or military science was taught by Dronacharya with all its confidential secrets of throwing and controlling by Vedic hymns. So that is the point. The point is that, it was not just merely throwing the arrow through the bow. It was the art which is mentioned here as the confidential secrets of throwing and controlling Vedic hymns. Many times you can shoot the arrow and you can still, direct the way you want it. That is through the Vedic hymns. You can shoot the arrow quite a far away from the place which is not seen also, because it is controlled by the Vedic mantras. So the mantras have got a lot of power, and that is what we learn in the today's world. Also, we see that we can realize God just by chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra attentively, and it has been happening with all of us, and that is why we see, like, we are around 50 devotees today here, and hearing Bhagavatam and chanting in the early morning Brahma Muhurta in the japa session. So that is the power of mantra. Mantra has got a lot of power. I remember in the olden days, there was a time when, in one of the lecture, Prabhupada has mentioned that when there is a snake bite, so there are certain mantras which are chanted by the snake charmers, and when they chant those mantras, the bite is not no more effective. The poison is removed, and the similarly, he says while chanting the mantras, the snake can be controlled very easily. So those were the power of mantras, very very strong and powerful. And here Prabhupada is saying gross military science is dependent on the material weapons, but finer than that is the art of throwing arrows, saturated with Vedic themes which act more effectively than gross material weapons like machine gun or atomic bombs. You would have seen in the, those videos that when Arjuna was shooting arrow, and if he had to shoot some particular astra, so he was not carrying that astra in his, I don't know what you call it, in his bag or something. He was not carrying. We must be wondering, so many astras, how will you carry, how will you fight, how will you search which astra to shoot at what time. But it was not that. Arjuna was just putting his hand in the air and chanting some mantra, and that arrow used to come in his hand. It was kept in some some cloud drive or something. Nowadays we call it is some cloud drive where things are stored. So that time Arjuna used to store all these weapons in those Google Cloud or somewhere, where whenever he wanted, he used to just put his hand up, chant some mantras, and that weapon used to come, and then he used to shoot the weapon. And those weapons were also kind of weapons like you would have heard when Narayana was shot, towards all the Pandavas. So what they did, they just bowed down in front of the Astra, and the Astra did not do anything to them. So the Astras were like that, very very powerful because they were saturated with the Vedic mantras. That is what Prabhupada is saying here. He says that those mantras were more powerful than the gross material weapons, which is like machine gun or atomic bombs. So we have heard Brahmastra was nothing but the atomic bomb. When Brahmastra was shot, or what to talk about shooting, when Brahmastra was brought in a position, it was put in the bow, and that point of time only, the world, the entire globe was burning out of heat, and there was such a big bright shining light which started appearing, which created great difficulties for all the living entities. So that happened before even shooting the astra. So just imagine, atomic bomb can clear a city or a country, but this particular Brahmastra was clarifying, was ready to destroy the entire planet Earth. It was that powerful astra. And then Prabhupada is mentioning the control is by Vedic mantras or transcendental science of sound. You know that Karna was very powerful. He was very expert in archery, and he could give a great competition to Arjuna. But the only difference between these two was that Arjuna was on the side of dharma, and Karna was on the side of adharma. And that is what happens. We always have to be on the side of dharma, and dharma is not something which I believe, you believe, or as per me or as per you. Dharma is, Prabhupada says, and it is in the scriptures, it is mentioned, dharmam tu shakshat bhagavad pranitam. Whatever Lord is saying, that is dharma. So many times people argue why whatever Lord is saying, that is dharma, because everything is the creation of Lord. So if I come to your house and I try to create my own rules, you'll be very unhappy with me, right? Then I might ask you, why is that, I have to follow your rule. Then you'll say, because it is my house, you have to follow my rule. I will tell you when. Of course, the devotees are not like that. They honor the guest very very properly, but yes, there are certain rules of the house, like there is a Mangal Arti which happens in the morning, and then there is a Guru Puja, there is a Tulsi Puja. So if somebody comes and says, no, 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 remove all this, I don't want all this, then you will say, of course we cannot remove this because this is my house. In the same manner, this entire globe, entire planet, entire universe, all the Brahmandas, everything is a property of Krishna. And when Krishna says something, we should not judge whether it is dharma or it is a dharma. Krishna is saying, that's it. That is what is the dharma, because it is Krishna's house. We are living in his house. So we need to follow what Krishna says. That is the point. In the Mahabharata, you see, there were, great people like Bhishma, Dronacharya, Kripacharya. All these were very, very powerful, great, and very good people. They were respecting Krishna very much, but they did not follow the Krishna's, guidance, which is there on the side of dharma. You should be on the side of dharma. You should not be. In Hindi, they say कृष्ण को मानना काफी है, काफी नहीं है, हमें कृष्ण की बात भी माननी बहुत जरूरी है। कृष्ण को मानना एंड कृष्ण की बात मानना, देयर इज अ डिफरेंस. So that is what we see in Bhagavad Gita. Whatever Krishna says, it is there in the Bhagavad Gita. So we need to follow what Krishna is saying. We need to follow the scriptures guidance. We should not be creating our own rules, thinking that I don't want this as per me. It is like this according to me. I believe. No, no, no. All those things are nonsense. We should not think that you believe, I believe. If you believe, then you become responsible for your situation in the future. But if you believe in the Shastras, then Krishna takes the responsibility. So I think the second option is more safer. So Prabhupada is further saying, it is said in the Ramayana that Maharaj Dashrath, the father of Lord Sri Ram, used to control arrows by sound only. All of you know this particular story, that Dashrath Maharaj used to just hear, and he can shoot Shabd Bhedi Ban, which is just by hearing he can shoot the target. That was the power of Dashrath Maharaj. He could pierce his target with his arrows by only hearing the sound without seeing the object. So this is finer military science than that of the gross military weapons used nowadays. Arjuna was taught all this, and therefore Draupadi wished that Arjuna feel obliged to Acharya Drona for all these benefits. So the point is coming up here is that the same thing, that Arjuna received all such wonderful powers and such wonderful training from Dronacharya, and then Draupadi is saying that because of this you're obliged, and you should not be killing the son of Dronacharya. And I think it is further mentioned, it may be argued why Dronacharya. Okay, so the Prabhupada is mentioning this point because many times people clarify this. They have this question: Dronacharya was a Brahmana, then how come he was teaching military science? So Prabhupada is mentioning in the reply. He says that Brahmana should become a teacher, regardless of what his department of knowledge is. A learned Brahmana should become a teacher, priest, and recipient of the charity. A bona fide Brahmana is authorized to accept such professions. So this is the very important point, that when somebody has a Brahminical quality, they should take up the preaching very quickly. They should not wait for hours, days, and months together. There are certain basic points, of course, we should learn before we go in front of the audience and before we start preaching. Certain basic points, that I'm not the body, I'm the spirit, soul. And there are so many shlokas in Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is about what? What is the difference between Gita and Bhagavatam? Like that, basic training should be given, and of course, like a good training of 3 to 4 months under a very capable leader would give you this opportunity to start preaching. So this is very powerful, that these are Brahminical qualities. Become a teacher, and regardless of what department is. So that was applicable for the Dronacharya, that he could even teach the military science. So this is what is the crux of this particular purport, that the finer Dhanur Vidya which was there, which was much better than the current material weapons which people are using now, because it is not in control, but those weapons were controlled by the mantras, and that was the power of mantra. We will quickly glance through the next purport as well. It is a short one, 1.7.45. स एषा भगवान् द्रोणः प्रजारूपेण वर्तते, तस्यात्मनो अर्धम् पतन्यास्ते नानवगाद वीराश्रुः कृपी. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. He, Dronacharya, is certainly still existing, being represented by his son. His wife Kripi did not undergo a sati without him because she had a son. Purport: the wife of Dronacharya, Kripi, is the sister of Krpacharya, a devoted wife, who is, according to revealed scriptures, the better half of her husband, is justified in embracing voluntarily death along with her husband if she is without issue. But in case of the wife of Dronacharya, she did not undergo such a trial because she had her son, the representative of her husband. A widow is a widow only in name if there is a son of her husband existing. So in either case, Ashwathama was the representative of Dronacharya, and therefore killing Ashwathama would be killing Dronacharya. That was the argument of Draupadi against killing of Ashwathama. So see here, we can see such a refined character of Mother Draupadi here, that she is giving so many explanation why Arjuna should not why Arjuna should not be killing Ashwathama. And that is the quality of an ideal wife. She is not arguing with Arjuna, but she is presenting her point in a very, very clarified, very clear manner. And that is how a lady should behave, and that is how a man should behave. They should not fight according to their ego, but they should present you know, the argument in a very, very subtle manner, trying to explain things. And that is what is the quality of a human. Many times we see people become animals, because of their egos. They do not want to understand what is right, what is wrong. They just want to win an argument. They just think, according to me, I am winning. But it is not like that. We are just creating a havoc in the family or the society when we are fighting just because, but just for the sake of winning. It is very good to lose. If the cause is better, it is very good to lose that battle. So here you see Draupadi is presenting so many arguments. We have been listening from I think like last couple of classes, around 10 to 15 class. And I think there's a very nice book last time Parvati Mataji gifted to my son, Draupadi. Very nice book. And I think everybody should read that book because it has got wonderful qualities of a lady, how a lady should follow a dharma. It is very important. Every characteristics, like recently, it is mentioned in the scriptures, and this happened. It's a recent incident which happened. So some of the Matajis, they were in the seva, and in the seva they were having the hairs open. So it is mentioned in the Bhagavatam that they should tie the hairs, and the men should cut their hairs very short. These are certain guidance in the scriptures, and there is a reasoning behind that. So if somebody is guiding that, Mataji's, you need to tie your hairs, otherwise it doesn't look good to be part of service. And if you're new, it is okay, you're learning. But if you are there for a good amount of time, then it is very basic thing that you need to tie your hairs properly. You shouldn't leave your hairs open. And you see that in Islam also, the Muslim ladies, they are covering their head. They don't leave their hairs open. So there are a lot of arguments, points there which are there. It says that if a lady is keeping her hairs open, then there will be evil spirits which can easily get attracted towards her, and create disturbances in her mind. So like that, there are various references in the Bhagavatam which talks about it. So these are again, the advanced level of somebody who is progressing in Krishna consciousness. The basic level is chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and following four regulative principles and eating only prasadam. But see, apart from that, these are also important things. It reflects your quality as a Vaishnava. It reflects your quality as a devotee. Suppose if there is a devotee who is keeping very long hairs and some big beards, and then some tilak and some fashion and all, then it doesn't look like a devotee. Looks like something else. So we need to also see that externally, are we because we are representing ISKCON, so are we maintaining those standards? So something like that we also need to keep in mind. Here Draupadi is presenting those arguments in a very nice, in a very clarified manner, and she's saying, if you kill Ashwathama, it is like killing Dronacharya again. And Sati system, last class I had spoken a little about it. It is the same thing, that if it was absolutely voluntarily, and like it was mentioned in the previous session, that the lady entering the fire, it is not that she was dying out of pain and shouting, crying. It is said that if the lady was very chaste, then the fire would not even touch her. It was like that. So that is how that system was there. But then here Prabhupada is mentioning, if the widow has a child, if the widow has a son, okay, so she's a widow for the namesake only, because she has her son to protect. And this is one more reason Draupadi do not want Ashwathama to be killed, because he is the protector of Kripi, which is the wife of Dronacharya and sister of Kripacharya. So we'll stop here. Thank you for your patience for listening the Srimad Bhagavatam class early in the morning. I hope there are some good takeaway points which you have got from these two shlokas, which Prabhupada is explaining here. And if I've committed any mistakes, please do forgive me. I seek your forgiveness. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Patita Pavan Guru Maharaj ki jai. If you have any questions, you can unmute, or you can come on video as well and ask your question. Or if you have any comment, also you are welcome. Hare Krishna. I'll stop recording.